Hello, welcome to next session. In this session, we will solve May 2014 paper of subject Axis Solid Mechanics. Okay. Question number 1 to question number 9 carry 1 mark each. Question number 1 is a steel wire of diameter 5 mm is bent around a cylindrical drum of radius 0.5 meter. Okay. The steel wire has modulus of elasticity of 200 GPa. Find the bending moment of the moment in the wire. Okay. So this is the wire. Sorry, this is drum and this is wire. And radius of drum is your 0.6 meter and diameter of the wire is 5 mm. Okay. So it is forming an arc. Okay. With the radius of the center of the arc is 0.5 meter plus 5 mm. Okay, so if we use bending equation here, is the radius of the arc. Okay, then bending equation is m by I e by rc. So and rc will be r plus d by 2. Okay, okay, that r is your 0.5 meter and d by 2 is your 2.5 by 1000. Okay, so RC radius of curvature becomes 0.0525 meter. Okay, or 502.5 mm. Okay, so if we use bending equation and E is given as 200 GPa. Okay, E is given as 200 GPa and use E as 200 GPa and use G as 200 GPa. Okay, then m by I sigma by I is your uh, according to the moment of inertia of that wire. Okay, because stress is generated in this. Okay, 5 by 64 5 4. So m by I e by r we can find out moment bending moment. Then the bending moment will come out in Newton mm. Then convert into Newton meter. So answer is your option is your. Okay, so answer is your 12.21 Newton meter. Okay. Next, a compressed air tank having an inner diameter of 480 mm and a wall thickness of 8 mm is formed by welding two steel hemispheres. If the allowable shear stress in the steel is 40 MPa, find the maximum permissible pressure inside the tank. As the tank is as the two tanks are hemispherical, so they form a sphere, and in sphere the hoop stress and longitudinal stress are equal. Okay, that is equal to sigma theta sigma L, that is equal to P by 40, and radial stress is zero. So these are the maximum stress and minimum stress is zero. So maximum uh, shear stress will be P by 80. Okay, the shear stress is given as U max minus log by 2, so it will be P by 80. Now PD by 80 is your uh, PD by 80 is your 40 MPa. Okay, maximum shear stress is given. So with as the maximum shear stress is given, we will not take this as maximum and this as minimum. Then the shear stress will come out as zero. Okay, so we have to take maximum stress as PD by 40 and radial stress as zero. Okay, so PD by 80 is equal to 40. So P is equal to 5.33 SPA. So answer is option was given. Okay, so answer is 5.33 SPA. Okay. If because here the shear stress is developing. Okay, and shear stress will work due to this maximum stress and this minimum stress. Due to this stress, these stresses there will be no shear stress. Okay, so we have to take this as maximum stress and this as minimum stress. Okay. So answer is your 5.33 MPa. Then the inverse buckling load of a column fixed at both the ends is P. If one of the ends is made free, the buckling load shall change to A P by 16, B P by 8, C P by 4, B P by 10. When both the ends are fixed, then the inverse load is just P is equal to pi 4 pi square A by L square. When one end is free, another is free, then it is given as P 5 square EI by 4 L square. So the ratio of these two is PF by P 1 by 60. Okay. So PF is your P by 60. Option A is the answer. Okay. Next, a point in a body is subjected to a biaxial state of stress, equal in magnitude but opposite in nature. Okay. On a plane inclined at 40 at an angle 45 degree with respect to x-axis passing through the point. The option A, the shear and normal stress are zero. B, normal stress is maximum and shear stress is zero. C, shear stress is maximum and normal stress is zero. D, shear stress is maximum, normal stress is zero. As the stresses are given equal and opposite, so these are the compressive stresses and these are the tensile stresses. Okay, so the more circle is looks like that. Okay, that is sigma. Okay, uh, that sorry that will be your tensile stress. That is this value. Okay, and this is this value. Okay, then you get these 2 points. Okay, and get the circle. So the maximum shear stress will be this, that is sigma, and it is making 90 degree angle. So with at 45 degree. So in actual it will be at 45 degree. So at 45 degree the shear stress is maximum. The shear stress is maximum. Okay, that is sigma strong into sigma. So answer is your C. Next, a weightless beam subjected to 2-point loads is shown in the figure below. So this is the shear force diagram of the beam is, this is diagram given. Here load is 10 kilonewton, here the load is 10 kilonewton. Okay, and here there are force. So this is the shear force diagram is, you have to choose the right shear force diagram. So these are the option given. Okay, so changing supports into reactions. Okay, the reactions are at this point and this point. Okay, so take it as A and this as B. Okay, then RA and RB are the reaction and 10 kilonewton load acting upward and 10 kilonewton load acting downward. Okay, so taking moment out B, RA into 4, 10 into 3 minus 10 into 1. Okay, so RA is equal to minus 5 kilonewton. Okay, so RA plus RB is equal to 0. Okay, this plus this is equal to 0. Okay, so RB is equal to 5 kilonewton because here 10 is upward and here 10 is downward. Total downward load, total net load here is 0. So RA plus RB is total upward load. Okay, so it is 0. So RB is 5 kilonewton. Okay, now we have RA as minus 5 and RB as plus 5. So the diagram will be like that 5. Okay, then we go up by 10, then we go down the 10. So 5. Okay, so this is the shear force diagram. So answer is your option C. Okay, next, for the point for the pin jointed truss, find the axial force in kilonewton in member 25. So this is member 25. Okay, and this is 26 and this is 24. This is 43 and this is 54. This is 56. 1 2 and 1 6. Okay, so now if we take joint 4. Okay, this is joint 4. Okay, a 20 kilonewton load is acting downward along 3 4, and its reaction will be along this and this. Okay, okay. So this F34 or force in 3 and 4 is 20 kilonewton. Okay, and for F24 is the force in this number 24 due to this. Okay, now it can be found by resolving vertically. Okay, then because F24 force 45 is equal to F34 total upward load is equal to total downward load. So F24 will be 20 by cos 45. Okay, so it is 20 by cos 45. Now as the joint 6 is fixed, okay, then as joint 6 is fixed, okay, so at joint 6, the the reaction is provided at this point, okay, because it is fixed, okay, it will provide reaction. So the net load acting downward is your 20 kilonewton, okay, net load acting downward is your 20 kilonewton, and here the reaction will be provided by this, so reaction will be also 20 kilonewton, okay. So this reaction will be 20 kilonewton, and this will create the force in this member. Okay, this 20 kilonewton will be loaded 1/6 member. Okay, so again by resolving vertical we can get F26 as 20 by sine 45. Okay, 20 by sine 45. Okay, next. Now we have to find out the force in member 125. Okay, so now take joint 2 because we have found out the force in this F24. Okay, and F26. Okay, now to find out the F25, take joint 2. Okay, so this is joint 2. Okay, so this is force F25 is the force in this member, and F24 is in this direction. And it is 20 by cos 45, and in this direction it is 20 by cos 45. Okay, so resolving vertically F25 cos 45, okay, minus F26 cos 45. Okay, this F24 will be in upward direction, F26 will be in downward direction, and F25 is will equate them. Okay, now it is coming out as 20, it will come out 20, so F25 is 0, so there will be no force in number 25. Okay, so answer is 0. Okay, next, the supporting structure the supporting structure of a water tank is made of reinforced concrete with a tubular cross section of inner diameter di, outer diameter d naught, height L, and Young's modulus E. The mass of the tank is m, mass of the supporting structure is neglected, then the natural frequency of water tank in transverse direction. Option A, root 3 pi E B naught 4 minus di 4 divided by 64 L cube m. B, pi E d naught 4 minus di 4 divided by 8 L cube m. C, 384 pi E d naught 4 minus di 4 divided by 360 L cube m. D, pi E d naught 4 minus di 4 divided by 64 L cube m. Okay, so this is the complete structure, and a tank is attached here. Okay, and diameter of the complete structure, outer diameter is d naught, inner diameter is di, and length. Okay, now now this tank is carrying weight. Okay, that is equal to mg. Okay, and due to this is fix that this end. Okay, so it will behave like a continuum with a point load at end point. Okay, So deflection will be like that WL cube by 3I because in cantilever the deflection is WL cube by 3I. Okay, when the point one is acting as other than okay, so delta is your WL cube by 3I. So mg is W, L cube, okay, E and I is your 5 by 64, D not 4 minus DI 4, okay, okay. Now your natural frequency is G by deflection, okay. Now deflection is this and G is this. Put the value of deflection, you can find out natural frequency and solving it out, we get option A as answer. Next, consider two statements. Statement 1. A body of weight W falls from a height h and strikes the ground. If the body starts from rest, the velocity with which it strikes the ground is root 2gh, where g is the acceleration due to gravity. This is the first case. Okay, W is the weight of this body and h is height, and it is striking the ground. So the velocity is root 2gh. Okay, now in second case, in second statement, if the same body initially at rest slides without friction along an inclined plane PQ, this is inclined plane PQ, then its velocity at point Q is root 2gh. Okay. So this is second diagram. What is the second statement? So this is point P and this point Q, and h is height, alpha is angular, sorry, in plane of inclination and inclination plane. Okay, so the correct option is both statement 1 and 2 are true. B. Statement 1 is true and 2 is false. C. Statement 1 is false and 2 is true. Both statements 1 and 2 are false. Here the height is h. Okay, so velocity will be root 2 the velocity in case both the cases will remain same because it depends upon the height only. It doesn't depend on the inclination or it is falling vertically downward. Okay, so it will be same in both the cases. Okay. Next, a mass is attached to a spring and placed horizontally. A mass is attached to a spring and placed horizontally in a frictionless surface. A simple pendulum has been pivoted to the mass. Okay. The degree of freedom of this system. So this is the system here a spring is given, and here the mass a pendulum is dead, and here a mass is dead. Okay, and the pendulum distance is y. Okay, and this is x. Okay, so the pendulum length is L. This is y direction. This is x. Okay. So when it is at the distance x and vertically it is at a distance y. Okay. So you have to calculate the degree of freedom of this option A1, B2, B3, B4. So answer is 2 because the vibration can be provided in the spring by two methods. One of them is you are moving this block or crane, whatever it is. Okay, and other is your pendulum. And other method is by moving this pendulum, giving vibration to this pendulum. You like that? Okay. So as there are two inputs which can be given. So degree of freedom is 1. Okay. First is keep the mass stationary and oscillate pendulum, and second is keep the pendulum stationary and move the mass to give different natural frequency. So there is 2 degree of freedom. So, okay, answer is 2. Next, Question 10 to question 20. Question 10. A composite bar of length L is made of a centrally placed steel plate bracket 50 mm wide into 10 mm thick with two copper plates each 30 mm wide into 5 mm thick bracket close connected rigidly on each side. If the temperature of the composite bar is raised by 50 degrees Celsius, find the stresses developed in each copper plate in MPa. For steel, ES is equal to 2 into 10 to the power 5 MPa and alpha is equal to 12 into 10 to the minus 6 per degree Celsius. For copper, EC is equal to 1 into 10 to the power 5 MPa and alpha C is equal to 17 point minus 10 into 10 to the power minus 6 per degree Celsius. So these are the assembly which steel plate in between two copper plates and the width and the thickness of the steel plate is 10 mm and then two copper plates are 5 mm. Okay. So this is the okay. Now you have to find out the stress developed. Okay. So to find out the stress developed, we have to find out the load acting on it. Okay. Which are restricting the expansion and compression of these two plates. Okay. And alpha C is alpha C is 17.10 to minus 6 and alpha S is your 12 into 10 to minus 6 is more than alpha S. Okay. So free expansion of the copper plate which is equal to alpha delta P L okay will be more than the free expansion of steel plate for the same temperature and for the same length. Okay. So as both the copper and steel plates are rigidly connected, okay, these plates are rigidly connected, okay, are rigidly connected. So they not they cannot expand freely. Okay. So the 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 material having higher tendency higher expansion, higher tendency to expand will be will will be brought back by the other plate. Okay, as uh, as copper plate, the expansion is this is alpha C delta S and steel plate expansion that is alpha S delta N. Okay, okay, but when they are rigidly bound, so then their common expansion will be according to this. Okay, they the copper plate cannot expand to this amount. Okay, and steel plate cannot expand to this amount only. Okay, this is the pre-expansion of steel. So the steel plate has to expand more and the copper plate has to expand less to make them equal. So if P is the force applied by the steel plates on copper plates, then and then P will be the force applied by the copper plates on the steel plate to have same expansion. Okay, so net expansion of the copper plate will be alpha C delta L minus P by 2 by A. Okay, or P by if we take the area of both plates combined, then P by A E into L. Okay, now and the steel plate will expand by alpha S delta L plus P P by A E by P by A E into L. Okay, so here alpha C delta L alpha C delta L minus P L A C E C. Okay, P is the total force on the copper plate and AC is the combined area of these two copper plates. Okay, L is length, EC is so this is the net expansion of copper plate and similarly alpha S delta L this expansion and then this alpha S delta L plus TL by ASES. Now solving this equation for P, we get alpha C minus alpha S. into T del T 1 by AS ES 1 plus AC EC. Okay, and putting the given value alpha C is given, alpha S is given, area is given. Okay, area of steel plate is given 50 into 10 because this is steel plate is 50 to 10, and for the each plate of copper is 30 into 5, or we can say it is 30 into 10 because there are two plates. Okay, so AC is here 30 into 5 into 2. Okay, so is putting ES EC we get and putting that equation we get P. Okay, after getting P we can find out stress is in the copper plate and stress is in the steel plate. Okay, so the stress in the copper plate will be P by AC. P by area of total plate. So this is 19.23 MPa. Okay, so answer is 19.23 MPa. Okay. Next, the vertical deflection at the free end of the cantilever beam as shown in the figure is. So this is the cantilever beam. Here the load 100 kN is acting at 2 meters from this end and 1 meter. The total length of the cantilever is 3 meters. Here is this flexibility. Okay. Now we have to find out the deflection at this point. Okay. Now at this point the deflection is y1 is equal to WLQ by 3L. Okay. Because if we don't consider this portion, then we can use the formula uh, that for cantilever with the point load at one end. Okay, so y1 is your W by 3 end. Okay, fine. Okay. Now, if and this is the formula for deflection and slope at this given this formula W square by 2h. So as there is no load further acting on this cantilever further, okay. So the slope will remain constant, okay, and it will form a triangle, okay, and this value is 1 meter, and we can find out y2, okay, we can find out y2. So y1 is equal to WL by 3EI, okay, and y2 is your y2 we can get uh, by a slope, okay, that dy by dx is WL by 2EI. Okay, so W is 100 into 4, L is your 4, okay, 2, L is your 2. So this is a slope, okay, and this slope is equal to y2 or tangent theta is equal to y2 divided by this one, okay. So it is equal to y2 by 1, so y2 is equal to 200 by EI, okay. So deflection at C 800 by CEI plus 200 by EI. So total is 1400 by 3I. Option B is the right answer. Okay. Option B is the right answer. 1400. Next, a hollow shaft and a solid shaft have the same length and the same outer radius. The inner radius of the hollow shaft is 0.6 r. Okay. Assuming that both the shafts are of same material and are subjected to same torque, find the ratio of shear stress in hollow shaft to that in solid shaft. Okay, a hollow shaft and solid shaft. The for the hollow shaft and solid shaft, the outer radius is same, that is r. Okay, and it means the radius of the solid shaft is r. Okay, and inner radius of the hollow shaft is 0.6 r. Assuming that the both are of same material, so E, G, and mu are same for this material for this. Okay, and they are subjected to same norm, and norm will also find the ratio of the shear stress in the hollow and solid shaft. Okay, now for the solid shaft, T H by J H, tau H by R. Okay, So TH, GH, the value of GA for the hollow chamber is 532, 2R4. Okay, uh, this is diameter of the outer diameter of the hollow chamber, and this is inner diameter. Inner diameter is radius is 0.6 R. So out inner diameter is 1.2 R. Okay, so 532, 2R4 minus 1.2 R4. Okay, so that is GH. This is equal to tau h by r. Okay, so tau h will be 0.7314 th. Okay, for the solid shaft, uh, we have the statement formula, that is ps by 532 into 2r4 tau s by r. Okay, tau h is your 0.6366 ts. Okay, so by comparing the two, because th and ts are same, so tau h by tau s is equal to 1.41489. Okay, for the same term. Okay. Next, a beam with overhang carries 1 point load. A beam with overhang carries 1 point load acting downward and other upward. Okay. The clockwise moment PB is applied at each pole. The bending moment at the midpoint of the beam is A0, BPL by 2, CPL, DPVL. Okay. So this is your P node acting here moment PB, and here moment PB is acting. Okay, and here P upward node is acting. Here distance is D and L and this is D. Okay. So now you have to calculate the bending moment at the midpoint. Okay. So first of all we have to find out the reactions at two spots. Okay. So this is the, so RA and RB are the reactions. Okay. Now taking moment about B, we can find out one of the reactions, that is RA. Okay. So this is PB. Taking moment at B, so PB clockwise, RA into L clockwise, P into B plus L anti-clockwise, PB clockwise, P into B anti-clockwise. So we get RA is equal to P, and similarly we can get RA plus RB is equal to P plus uh, P minus P. So P is upward and P is upward, P is downward. Okay, and RA plus RB is equal to 0. Okay, so RB we can find out if we need to find out. Okay, but if we here we need to find out this, because we can find out moment from the from the leftward node only. Okay, so taking moment of midpoint. Okay, so that is uh, the distance of this P from the midpoint is B plus L by 2. What is B plus L by 2? And this is your P into L by 2. Okay, or this is your P into B. PB. Okay, PB. So answer is your zero answer. Okay, answer A. Okay. Moment about the midpoint is 0. Okay, next, a cantilever beam of length L supports a concentrated load at the pre-end. The cross section of the beam is rectangular with constant width B and varying depth H. The depth H of this idealized cantilever beam varies in such a way that the maximum normal stress at every cross section remains equal to allowable bending stress. Consider only the bending stresses. The depth of the fully stressed beam at any distance x from the free end shall vary. Option A, with square of x, with square root of x, C linearly with x, with cube of x. Okay. So here it is given that the normal stress, the normal stress remain equal to the It means it is given normal stress at every cross section remains equal to the allowable bending stress. So it means the normal stress is same everywhere here, and at the depth is varying to make this normal stress equal at every section. Okay, so h is varying, so it means at a distance x, the h in hx. Okay, so it is dependent upon x. Okay, so at any distance x, okay, we take moment of inertia. That is, the b is your width and depth is your hx. So bhx 2 by 12. Okay, and the moment at this section is h into x. Okay, now uh, your y will be, because depth is hx at this section, so y will be hx by 2. Okay, so putting the value of m px into 12 divided by and I double x, okay, p into hx cube, okay, sigma hx by 2, okay, we can find out sigma. Okay. Putting this value we can find out sigma. So sigma is constant because it is same at every section. Okay, p is constant, that is load, and b width is also given as constant. So hx square is directly proportional to x, so hx is directly proportional to x root x. So hx will increase with the square root of the square of the distance from the point load. Okay, so answer is B. Next, a cantilever beam is subjected to following three different loading conditions. A concentrated load P at its free end, B a couple M0 at its free end, both loads acting simultaneously. So this is your load P, this is L, and this is your load, this is your M load, and this is your GL. So this is your P. Here only P is acting here, only M load is acting here, both are acting. Okay. Now the question is the flexure rigidity of the beam may be assumed as EI. The strain energy due to bending when both the loads act simultaneously. Option A can be determined by applying the principle of superposition, and the strain energy is P square L cube by 6 EI B M dot square L by 2 EI. Option B can be determined by applying the principle of superposition, and the strain energy is P square L square by 6 EI plus M dot L cube by 2 EI. Okay, option C can not be determined by applying the principle of superposition, and the strain energy is P square L cube by 6 EI plus M naught square L by 2 EI plus P M naught L square by 2 EI. B cannot be determined by applying the principle of superposition, and the strain energy is P square L square 6 E by 6 EI plus M naught L cube by 2 EI plus P M naught L square by 2 EI. Okay, so here we have to compare the strain energy. Okay, so let us find out the strain energy in each case. Okay, so in first case, let U1 be the strain energy, and it will be given by and m square dx by 2i, where m is p into x. Okay, m is p into x. Okay, into x. Okay, so u1 will be and x is variable 0 to 1. So p scale m cube by 6a and into the given. And similarly the shear stress energy in second case is you are because here only m naught is acting, only m naught is acting. Okay, so the bending moment is m naught. So it will be m naught square dx by 2a. So it will be limits are again 0 to L, m naught square L by 2a. And in the third case, both PV and m naught are acting. Okay, so the total moment is px plus m naught square. Okay, m naught. So its energy will be px plus m naught. square divided by 2a. So if we solve this, then it will be p square and limits are 0 to p square x square plus m dot square plus 2 px m dot divided by 2a dx. Okay. Now if we integrate it, we get this. Okay. And we can see that u1 is your p square l cube by 6a and u2 is m square l by 2a. And u is your p square l cube by 6a m not square. Okay. U total u. Okay. So we can see that u is not equal to u1 plus u2 and is greater than u1 plus u2. Okay. So the state energy, the principal superposition is that the reflection or the state energy or something else caused by this alone, okay, and caused by this alone should be equal to caused by these two. So this is so the principle of superposition is not satisfied. Okay, so answer is your C. So which is cannot be determined by applying the principle of superposition and the state energy is this. Okay, because by applying principle of superposition we get this u1 and u2. Okay, u1 and u2. U1 and u2. So which is not correct. So answer is not C. Next, a taper rod of has a diameter d1 at one end which reduces uniformly to a diameter d2 over the length L. If the modulus of elasticity of material is E, the change in length of the rod due to the application of axial force E is option A 4PL divided by pi E d1 d2, B 4PL pi E bracket d1 square minus d2 square, C PL divided by pi E d1 d2, D 2PL pi E d1 square minus d2 square. Okay. So this is direct derivation that for a paper bar, the extension is given by 4PL pi E d1 d2 that we have covered in the introduction lecture of strength material. So answer is your A. Okay. Next, you can see my video of introduction to of strength material. Okay, for this derivation. Okay. For a point in a body subjected to plane stress condition, sigma x is equal to 100 MPa, sigma y 50 MPa, tau xy, tau yx 25 MPa. The maximum principal stress is use direct formula that sigma 1 is sigma x plus sigma y by 2 plus 1 by 2 root sigma x minus sigma y square plus 4 tau x y square. We can get result that is 110.35 MPa. Okay. Next, an isotropic body is subjected to a state of stress given by sigma x 10 MPa, tau xy, tau yx 20 MPa. Okay. Assuming G is equal to 0.4 E, the volumetric strain is A 5 by E, B 7.5 by E, C 10 by E, D 15 by E. So here sigma x is 10 MPa and this sigma x y and tau x y is 20 MPa. Sigma y is 0 because it is not given. Okay, so by using the formula, same formula as you are using previous question, that sigma x plus sigma y by 2 plus 1 by 2 sigma x minus sigma y square 4 tau x y square. Okay, root we can get the maximum principal stress. Okay, if we use minus sign here, we can get minimum principal stress. Okay. Now, after getting maximum and minimum principal stress, we can get the maximum and minimum principal strain also. Okay, so that is sigma 1 by E minus mu sigma 2 by E, or epsilon 2 sigma 2 by E minus mu sigma 1 by E. Okay, mu is your Poisson's ratio. Okay. And third is your minus sigma 1 by E mu minus mu sigma 2 by E. Here we have assumed that sigma 1, sigma 2 and sigma 3 are tensile in nature. Okay. So taking the respective sign, because here minus middle principal is minus 15, so we have to take here minus sigma 2 as plus. Okay, and here we will take minus, and here we will take plus. Okay, so this is your these are the three states, three principal states. Okay, and we know that the volumetric state is summation of the three states. Okay, so volumetric state is del V by V is equal to epsilon one, epsilon two, epsilon three. Okay, by this we can get this volumetric state by adding all the three of all above three. We can get this. Okay, now del V by V is equal to 10 by E. Uh, 10 mu by 2 by E. Now, given that your G is equal to 0.4 E. Okay, from this we can get the, the value of mu. Okay, we know that E is equal to 2G plus 1 mu. Okay, by putting the value of G is equal to 0.4 E. Okay, we can get 1 plus mu divided by 1 by 0.8. Okay, so mu is equal to 0.25. Okay, so mu is equal to now 0.25. Now put this value. Now we have to calculate what convert state. Okay. So now put the value of mu here. Okay. Uh, we can find out volumetric state. Okay. Then energy 10 by E. Okay. So this is 5 by E. Option A is the right answer. So we have to remember two things. That volumetric state is the summation of three principal states and and E and G relationship. Okay. So first of all, we will find out the principal settings, then the principal state, then volumetric state, then use E and G relationship, and then we'll find out value by V. Okay, by putting the value of V. Okay. Next, a block of weight Q rests on a horizontal inclined plane, and it is attached to a string which runs over the frictionless pulley to carry a block of weight P. So this is block Q, this is block Q, and this is block P. Okay, and it is running on a frictionless pulley with an angle alpha. Okay, at it, oh, a block of weight W dashed on an inclined plane and it attached to a spring which runs over a frictionless pulley to carry a block of weight W at its other end. Okay. The coefficient of friction between the block of weight Q and the inclined plane is mu. The coefficient of friction is mu. Okay. Consider the following cases. Case 1. Weight Q starts moving down the inclined plane. Weight Q starts moving down the inclined plane. Okay. First case is the weight Q starts moving down. Second case, the weight P starts falling down. So in first case, the Q is moving down, and in the second case, the P is falling down. Okay. The limiting value of the ratio of P by Q for the case 1 and case 2 are respectively. So we have to discuss these two cases, okay, and then we find out P by Q for each of the case, okay, and then we have to answer the question. So options are sin alpha minus mu cos alpha, add sin alpha plus mu cos alpha, B mu sin alpha minus cos alpha plus add mu sin alpha plus cos alpha, C sin alpha plus mu sin cos alpha, add sin alpha minus mu cos alpha, sin alpha plus mu cos sin alpha plus cos alpha, and mu sin alpha minus cos alpha. Okay. So for in first case, let us take first case. So here the block Q is active. Here the block Q is there with an inclined plane with coefficient of friction mu, and here P is the other block. In first case, the Q starts moving downward. Okay, now Q starts moving downward. Okay, when Q starts moving downward, okay, uh, then the force of friction will act in upward direction. Okay, and Q is acting like this because Q component Q sin alpha, Q cos alpha, and Q sin alpha, and Rn is a normal reaction. Okay, and here the weight of the block P is acting downward. Okay, tension T. That is T. So T is equal to P, and here the tension is also acting. That is T is equal to P. Okay. So at this load, the forces acting are Rn, P, mu Rn, Q sin alpha, and Q cos alpha. Okay. Now balancing forces along the plane. So it is P plus mu Rn is equal to Q sin alpha. Okay. And perpendicular to the plane is Rn Q cos alpha. So balancing these two, P plus mu Q cos alpha, mu value of Rn is Q cos alpha, mu Q cos alpha is equal to Q sin alpha. So P is equal to 2 bracket sin alpha minus mu cos alpha. Okay. So P by Q is sin alpha minus mu cos alpha. So one of the answer may be for the first is sin alpha minus mu cos alpha. So sin alpha minus mu cos alpha. So answer should be this. Okay, this. So, but check it for second case also. So second case is in second case in second case P is falling down. If P is falling down, then Q moving up. So the force of friction will act in downward direction. And Q sin alpha is already acting here, and P cos alpha is acting here, like in previous case, and R is acting here. Now balancing along the plane, then P is in this direction, and Q sin alpha and mu Rn is in this direction. So P mu Rn plus Q sin alpha, okay, will be equal perpendicular to plane. Okay. Now perpendicular plane is only Rn is equal to Q cos alpha. Now putting this value, we can get P by Q as mu cos alpha plus sin alpha, so answer is A. Okay. So that we have checked with the second option also. Next, to unload an item from a truck, a crane boom is raised with a constant angular velocity of 1 radian per second. Okay, relative to the cab, and then the cab is rotated about vertical axis with constant angular velocity of 0.5 radian per second. Okay, read the statement again. To unload this can from a truck, sorry, from a truck, a crane boom is raised with a constant angular velocity of 1 radian per second relative to the cab, and then the cab, now it is raised with constant angular velocity. Now it is raised with, so raised will mean it is rotated about with the x-axis. Okay, and the cab is rotated, and then the cab is rotated about what, and then it is rotated about this axis. Okay. Okay, now first the motion is given about this. Okay, it is raised like this, like this. Okay, first motion is given about like this. Okay, being moving like this. Okay, now once the it has been rotated, then it is given movement out like this about z axis. Okay, about vertical axis with a constant angular velocity of 0.5 radian per second. Initial the rotation about this is 1 radian per second. Okay, if the length of the boom OP, the length of this OP is 10 meter, the velocity of the tip P of the boom in meter per second. So this is given in vector form. Root 2 by 5 minus 2I minus j plus 2k b root 2 by 5 minus I minus 2j plus k c 5 by root 2 minus 2I minus j plus 2 root k d 5 by root 2 minus I minus 2j plus 2k. Okay. Now distance of this point from x-axis is OP. Okay. That is 10 meters. Okay. Now it is rotated so about x-axis. So its velocity is uh, angular velocity is 1, maybe 1 into 10. So vi is your 10 meter per second, and its direction is like this. Okay. Now it has two components. That one is Vy, another is Vz. As it is 45, so this is also 45. So Vy and Vz will be equal, and will be equal to Vi cos 45 and Vi sin 45. Okay. Okay. So there we have Vy, and Vz. Okay. So this is 10 by root 2 and negative because they are it is in opposite direction to your y-axis. Okay, and it is Vz is positive because this is upward. Okay, now this is all about rotation about x-axis. Now another rotation is given about z-axis. Okay, okay. Now when the rotation is given about z-axis, so this point will remain here at a distance this, but it will move like rotate like this. Okay, so only the y component will remain same. Okay, and its distance from z axis will remain same. Okay, so that is that the relation is 10. So that is 10 cos 45 and its angular velocity is zero point 0.5. So the uh, velocity about z axis will be zero point 0.5 into 10 cos 45. Okay, so this is 10 cos 45 and this will be this. Okay, it will not go up. Okay, because the dimension is changing according to that only. Okay, so according to this rotation will go around this. Okay, so from this we will get it will go towards negative x-axis. Okay, so it will be 5 by root 2. Okay, but because y will remain same, z will remain same. Okay, that is radius, and y is this because it is rotating about this like this. So y is same when it is here, then it is again y, when it is here, then it is y. Okay, so only the x dimension will change. Okay, so this will be 5 root 2 and it will be as x is positive in this direction. So bx will be negative. So it will be minus 5 by root 2. So answer will be minus take bx minus 5 by root 2 I and minus 10 by root 2. Okay, uh, minus 10 by root 2 y. Okay, negative and 10 by root 2 positive. Okay, that direction. If we take common 5 by root 2, so answer will be the D answer. Okay, next, a block of mass 5 kg moves up on a smooth inclined plane with a velocity of 10 meters per second in the direction shown. The bullet of mass 60 kg, 50 gram, traveling at 500 meters per second, strikes the block centrally and gets embedded in it. So uh, this is the bullet. Okay, block of mass. This is a block. Okay, and this is a 5 kg, and it is moving with 10 meter per second. Okay, and this is the bullet. Okay, that is of 60 kg, and it is moving with 500 meter per second. Strikes the block centrally, and it strikes the block centrally and gets embedded. Remain in it. The velocity of the block and the embedded bullet in meter per second after immediately after the impact. Okay. Now options are given 12.54 at 30 and 13.84 at 51.7 degrees, C 13.84 at 30 degrees, D 15.68 at 51.78 degrees. So this is the bullet and this is the block. Okay. So uh, the initial momentum is provided by the bullet only because bullet is moving with 5 meter. Initial momentum will be provided by both because it is moving with 500 meter per second and it is moving with 10 meter per second. So, but the bullet is having the velocity in y direction only, that is 500. Okay, and the block is having velocity in this direction, making an angle 30 degree to the x-axis. So we can find out the velocity in x direction and in y direction. Okay, that is 10 cos 30 and that is 10 sin 30. Okay, now let us see. So initial velocity of block in x direction is 10 cos 30. 10 cos 30. Okay, and in y direction it is 10 sin 30. Okay, that is fine. Initial velocity of bullet in y direction is 500. Okay, initial velocity of bullet in x direction is 0. Initial velocity in the x direction is 0. I mean y direction is 500. Okay, now let Wy is the final velocity of bullet in and block in y direction. Now these are the initial velocities in x and y direction, and Wy and Wx are the final and initial and final velocities of bullet and block in x and y direction. Okay. So now we can apply the momentum conservation equation because m mass of block is 5 kg and mass of bullet as 60 gram or 0.06 kg is given. Okay. So applying the momentum conservation m u by m v by okay m u by sorry, we can apply in both y and x direction. In y direction, it is m u y and m v by initial velocity. Okay, mass of sorry, momentum of bullet and momentum of block, and m plus m is to b w by final momentum. Okay, so from this we can find out final momentum. W by is here 10.869 meter per second. Okay, now again momentum in x direction. Momentum in x direction is again ux uh, change it by x. Okay, by change by 2x. Okay, and ux m dx and m plus m wx. Okay, and put the values. Okay, so we get wy as 10.689 869 meter per second and ws as 8.557 meter per second. So resultant velocity will be the summation of scale of this and by and root scale of this. So answer is 13.833 meter per second. Now to find out angle, take wy by 10 into 6. So option B is the right answer. Okay. Next, a balloon with ballast jacket weight. Inside it has a gross weight of 500 Newton. It is falling vertically with a constant acceleration of 2 meter per second square. If air resistance is negligible, find the weight of ballast in Newton that must be thrown out in order to give balloon an upward acceleration of 2 meter per second square. Okay. Acceleration due to gravity g is equal to 9.81 meter per second square. Okay. So this balloon is carrying some weight. Okay, and gross weight is 500 Newton. Okay, total weight is 500. Okay, it is falling vertically. Okay, it is falling vertically with constant acceleration of 2 meter per second. Okay, if the air resistance level is 100, okay, find the weight of the ballast that must be thrown to leave the balloon. So as the weight is more, so it is falling vertically. So if it throws some weight, then the force of the balloon will take the balloon upward. Okay. So we have to find out what weight it should throw from it so that it can move upward. Okay. Initially it is falling vertically. Okay, now if it throws some weight from it, okay, then it can move up. So what amount of weight it should throw so that it can move up? Okay, total weight is 500. Okay, so when the balloon is moving downward, okay, the weight is just 500. That is acting downward. Okay, as it is moving downward, so inertia force will act in upward direction. Okay, so some force is taking it upward. So that is the F force. Okay, which can be provided by the gas in the balloon or by something else. Okay, by burning some fuel or etc. Okay, okay. That force will act in upward direction. Now F will be in upward direction and MA will be in upward direction. Inertia force and only weight will be acting in downward direction. Okay, when the balloon is moving downward. Okay. So mg is equal to 500, m is equal to your 509.81. So m is equal to 50.97 kg. Okay, m is equal to 50.97 kg. Now the balancing these forces, ma minus ma is upward, f is upward, mg is downward. Okay, so ma minus mg plus f is your 398 398 Newton. So it is provided by the gas pressure or coal burning or anything else. Okay, so it will remain constant because that is uh, that agent is providing some same amount of force all the time. Okay, so now when the now the at the previous instant the balloon was moving downward. Okay, now if it is move upward, then this force will also remain constant because it is provided by gas or or pressure jet. Okay, so this F will remain same. Okay, now we'll take the case of when the balloon is moving upward and this upward motion is provided by throwing some weight from it. Okay, let small amount of mass is thrown from the balloon so that the uh, new mass of the balloon is mi. Okay, now the mig will act downward. Okay, as the balloon is moving upward, so inertia force will be in downward direction, mia, and f will be in upward direction. Okay, so balancing these forces again, MIG plus MIA is equal to 398. So MI is equal to 398 by this. So MI is 33.7 kg. Okay, so initial weight was 500 and now the weight is, when it is moving upward, is 33.7. Okay, so uh, 500 Newton. Okay, so uh, initial weight was 500 Newton. Or now the weight is your 33.7 into 9.8, so it should be 169.4 Newton. Okay, yes, should be Newton. Okay, so answer is this. Okay, so this is all about the XC solid mechanics paper of year 2014. Thank you.